Well, would you look at this? It is the new Smith & Wesson. Yes, I said that. Smith & Wesson Model 1854 lever gun. And yes, I said that too, and it's chambered in 44 Remington Magnum. And before I say, see you in the next video, I'm gonna answer some questions of my own, as well as some questions you may have about this gun, including why it's the second version of this 1854 that Smith & Wesson has loaned me for review. But right now, I'm gonna shoot some, see if it even works. Hi, George here, and welcome to Tales from Target Suite, where I'll share my perspective on guns and shooting, and we'll have an adventure or two that will make even a grown man smile. And one thing I will say right off the bat is I've got to find another way to hold this gun because the way I'm holding it, I'm having to get my cheek down too low, and the recoil is hitting my cheekbone. So, well, that guy was in danger of needing some cheese to go along with that wine, and so I thought I would take just a minute and give a kind of a high-level comparison between the brand new Smith & Wesson Model 1854, I'm liking it, and the Marlin 1894. Basically the same gun design that's been in production since 1894. Well, you can tell there's a big difference in the barrel profile. Both barrels start out at around 0.9 inches. The Marlin 1894 tapers down to 0.65 inches, and the Smith & Wesson 1854 only tapers down to 0.83 inches, so that's almost a bull barrel. And why do they do that? Well, it's obvious because the Smith & Wesson lever gun is threaded for a suppressor. Another difference you can see is that the sight height above bore is about 0.2 inches higher on the 1854 than it is on the 1894, and that allows you to see the sights when you have many different kinds of suppressors installed, and so you'd still be able to use the factory XS peep sight. And speaking of sights, the XS peep sight on the 1854 Smith & Wesson is removable in case you want to put a low power variable optic on it, like this one. It's a Loophole Freedom 1.5x4, but it is perfect for a gun just like this. And I did have to remove the XS peep sight in order to install this. And by the way, be sure and check in the bag inside the box your gun came in, because inside that bag there are 2 screws to reattach that Picatinny rail. Now let's let that guy do some more shooting. Kudos to Smith & Wesson. I'm just really excited that they are that they even considered bringing out a lever action rifle. But there is a lot of energy behind this type of gun in the world today, in spite of what some people might say. But it is fun to have a mechanical interface with your gun instead of just a trigger pull. And so let me get my ears in and we'll shoot some more, and I'll have that mechanical interface. But the 1854, it is a nice gun. There's nothing to complain about, except for my cheek a little bit. All right, if that guy's going to keep whining about his cheek, then we need to talk about that. And of course, the problem is with the comb height. And you can see here that the comb height is actually about a ½ an inch taller on the Smith & Wesson 1854, taller than it is on the Ruger-made Marlin 1894. And so the 1894 is perfect for me. It gives me a little wiggle room up and down before the comb actually presses on my cheekbone, so that's perfect. But the comb is right at my cheekbone on the Smith & Wesson. But is that a bad thing? Here's my take on it. I think most guys that buy this gun are going to do something like this, and they're going to install a low power variable optic or a red dot sight or some other kind of optic. And by doing that, you're going to get your sight plane up higher above the comb than you are with just using the excess PEEP. And so this scope right here is the same one that was mounted on that Ruger-made Marlin in 1894 when I shot a deer last season. And it was good there. And I can tell you it's good here because I still have a good cheek weld and my eye is naturally in line with the scope. So I think that's a plus. It didn't work for me down there as well as it could, but I think for most folks it's going to be just right. But the biggest distinction between the two guns is in the receiver and bolt design. The Marlin Model 1894 has a receiver that is fully slotted front to back and utilizes a square bolt. It's much weaker than the solid receiver round bolt design of the 1854, which is similar to the Marlin Model 336. It is well made. It's stainless, forged stainless receiver, stainless steel barrel, polymer stocks. It's got some M-LOK slots. Okay, I'm going to break in one more time, and it's because of those M-LOK slots I need to talk about. But before I do, real quickly, I want to encourage you, read your manual. If you read your manual, you'll already know what I'm fixing to talk about with those M-LOK slots, and it's really important. And you would know from reading your manual 5 times in there, I believe it's 5 or 6, that Smith & Wesson tells you that you need to cycle your operating lever briskly to avoid having jams. And by briskly, I say this is briskly. Some guys I see doing that, they are jamming and cramming their operating lever. And I just, you know, if you're going to keep that gun around for generations, that's not going to work for you, I think. So, but what about these M-LOK slots? Well, the manual tells you that if you're going to install something, an M-LOK device, you need to take out your magazine tube because there's very little clearance between the inside of the M-LOK slot surface and the mag tube. So you install your device, then you push this back in and check for interference. It's in the manual. Check it out. A lot of guys are saying this is a 5-pound trigger. Even on the Smith & Wesson website, I think he mentioned it was a 5-pound trigger. But I know one thing, when I was using my Lyman trigger pull gauge, I was getting 3.5 pounds. That's just what it was. Let's take a look. So a lot of that has to do with where you address the trigger with your trigger pull gauge. If you're not down here on the tip, then you're going to get just like any lever, the closer you get into the fulcrum, the more force it takes, and that's true of this trigger as well. What do you think about big loop levers? You know, I prefer the standard loop lever personally because I don't live anywhere that I'm going hunting when it's below 0 and need gigantic gloves. And I've already done a test with this very gun right there, and I can get big old gloves in there and it works just fine. Maybe I ought to do a short form video about that. But let me know what you think about the lever. Do you think this oversized? It's not as big as some of the big loop levers, but it's oversized. Do you prefer this from a functional standpoint? Let's forget about the style points you get for a large loop. Let's just talk about function. Do you like the big loop, bigger loop, medium loop, small loop? Which one do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. Let's load up some 44 Special. I shot a few of these. I got 3 of them to cycle really well. And let's see if I can get a magazine full of 44 Specials to cycle in this gun, because it's not a given that you're going to get a gun that's chambered in 44 Magnum that will cycle 44 Specials. But these are 44 Special 240 grain from Underwood Ammo. Let's see what happens here. And I'm just going to run through these as quick as I can and try to hit steel at the same time. All right, 44 Special, as fast as I can go, and still hit something. Okay, that was pretty good. I had a little hitch in there, but they cycled very acceptably. All right, this is going to be 10 rounds. Let's see if I can put them all onto something. Ah! That was too much fun. I got to do that again. One more. Let's go way down there. Yep, that's it. Wow, this does heat up. Whew. Okay. Smith Wesson Model 1854. What a sweet gun. New on the market. Smith Wesson's first attempt. I think they've done it well. The hiccup I had with my first gun, it was, I will say, give you a little more information. It was clearly a used gun. It had been used either by other T&E guys, other reviewers, or used in testing. And so who knows what had gone on with that gun, but it was much more used than this one was that they sent me. And this gun here has been flawless all the way around. But excess sights, pick rail, peep sight, fantastic shootable accuracy. I love it. And as I said, I hope I answered some of your questions. If you have others, please let me know in the comments, and then I'll see you in the next video.